Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, Savage Reads. I am excited to talk about some books today, as always, and I think I'm going to go over 5 books today because the last one I'm so excited to talk about. I can't wait for the next video. Quick knitting update. I am working on the Esther jacket from Petite Knit. It's looking more and more like a jacket at this point. So I've got the whole front. There still is a front button band that will be added later and the sleeves, but I'm just working my way down the front, and here's the armholes. And if you look, it's got such a cool pattern. I'm really excited about how it's turning out. I think it's going to be nice when it's done. Is this really kind of a bit complicated and maybe not my favorite experience knitting? Sure, it's not quite as quick, but I am still enjoying my time and I'm excited to see where it turns out. But let's jump into those books. This first book is a recommendation from Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and this is The Dream Hotel by Leila Lalami. And this is basically Minority Report. We have this dystopian future where the algorithm predicts your risk for committing crimes, and you can be detained if your risk score is too high. And we follow our main character as she is going through the airport and ends up getting detained and sent to this detention center, not quite prisoner, but not free for sure. And she has to stay there until her risk score goes down. If you are a mother of young children, this might kill you. Just her being separated from her kids, she can't get back to them no matter what she does, that the system is set up against her. It was really strong. Now, do I think that that was probably a success on the author's part? Yeah. Did I enjoy it as the reader? No, but I don't think I was supposed to enjoy it. I was supposed to feel this, but I felt it a lot, thinking of, oh my goodness, being separated from your kids for years and not being able to take care of them. And it just was really nerve-wracking. When you have books like this that are sci-fi, really, I think the main goal that the author needs to have is to hold up a mirror to our current society. And I think this book does that really well, talking about how much companies control our lives and talking about the misaligned interests with private prisons and detention centers and talking about the treatment of people who are incarcerated. I just think there was so much that goes into this book that is worth discussing when you look at it through this sci-fi lens. I thought it was just excellent. So I thought this book was really well done, but I'm not going to say it's 5-star, my favorite book, and I loved it, because I kind of hated my experience going through it. I really had to stagger this book a little bit because I would get a little too anxious if I spent too much time with it each day. So I think that this book was really well done. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, but yeesh, was it a rough reading experience for me personally. So this next book is also a recommendation from Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and this is Rabbit Moon by Jennifer Hay. This is following a divorced couple as they go to Shanghai because their daughter, who was taking a gap year teaching English in China, is severely injured in a hit and run. And so they have to go and try to piece her life together and see what really happened there. I think this book had some interesting things about adoption and family, and sure, it was fine. But honestly, this book is so forgettable to me. I keep struggling to remember what this book was about. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's the girl in Shanghai. That was really the only thing that I could hang on to. And I just don't know if it was really impactful. So I don't know if I can point to anything necessarily wrong with this book. I think it just was not for me. It hit me at the wrong time. Before making this video, I looked at the books that I was going to talk about and I'm like, Rabbit Moon, what was that about again? Like, I just didn't have a very strong connection with this book, which is too bad because... Okay, so I'm back. My phone completely gave up the ghost and is gone. So back now that I have gotten all of that figured out and I can finish filming this video finally. So I had a comment a little while ago recommending the book What You Have Heard Is True, a memoir of witness and resistance by Carolyn Forche. So this is a memoir of Carolyn going off as a poet to El Salvador with this mysterious stranger to learn about the situation there and to learn about a lot of these horribly awful, devastating events and what happened before a country got swallowed up in a civil war. And it was really excellent. The writing was beautiful. I learned a lot about a situation in a place that I didn't know a lot about. I think I may have preferred to read a book that was a little bit more factually based and less her personal experience based, seeing as I didn't know a lot going into it. But if you have any sort of background about El Salvador in the 1980s, I think you would really like this book because the writing is gorgeous. And so I do highly recommend this book. I think it was really well done. I just wish that I had had a little bit more background knowledge to really understand some of the events that were talked about. This next book is a recommendation from the channel Scotty Cherie Reads, so I will make sure to link her channel down below. And this was Recitatif by Toni Morrison, and I have been wanting to read a little bit more Toni Morrison, and I thought that this was a great idea because it is a short story, so it is really quick to get through. It did come with an introduction from Zadie Smith, and I was surprised because the introduction I think was longer than the short story. But I thought the introduction was so excellent and really gave me a lot of background in understanding how to approach this story. And so I do recommend that you go through the introduction as well as read the rest of the book, because this is short and quick, but wow, does it pack a punch. You can finish it in a sitting, but you are going to get a lot out of it. This is following two women that grow up together in a shelter for children, and then they lose touch, but they come back together at different parts in their lives, and they look back on some of their shared experiences. Now, the interesting thing with this story is that you have these two women that race has really shaped how they see the world, and they have these fundamental, they feel, differences because one is black and one is white. But you are never told which one is which, and you could probably draw conclusions based on the text for either woman being one or the other. I think that Morrison is really trying to show that those don't matter, and I think it's really interesting to try to see the point that Morrison is making, and I just really liked it. And I just thought it was really well done. It's the kind of short story that really sticks with you and you get a lot out of. And so yes, just highly recommend. It was an excellent one. Now, this next book was a recommendation from Melinda at A Web of Stories, and I will make sure to link her channel down below. And I had to include this in the video because I am so excited to talk about it. I listened to Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent by Judi Dench and Brendan O'Hea. And this was excellent. The audio production is excellent. Basically, it feels like you're listening to a podcast and you are listening to these interviews and this discussion with Judi Dench about Shakespeare and each of the plays that she was in, and they go through play by play and she talks a little bit about her interpretations, and I loved that it was done as a conversation. So sadly, Judi Dench does not read the book. There is an interview with her at the end, but she is no longer able to read. But the book is taken from hours and hours and hours of interviews that she did, and the audiobook narrator is just fantastic. So if you love Judi Dench, you're gonna love this book. If you just love Shakespeare, you are also going to love this book. This made me want to go read more Shakespeare. It really just shines through Judi's absolute adoration for Shakespeare and her experience as someone who has really lived Shakespeare for a lot of her life. And I loved the push and pull of the interview format, because I think if you just had Judi Dench's thoughts on the book, you might start saying, Okay, well, come on, that's not how I would interpret it. You might feel like she's just telling you this is the way it is, but with that push and pull, you get the, oh, well, it's her perspective. I can see how it is. For example, at one point, the interviewer asks, did you ever think that that brother and sister were two sides of the same coin? Judi Dench responds with, well, that's stupid. He's like, well, but look, I mean, they kind of are foils for each other. And her response is, well, that's stupid because how would you portray that on the stage? And I thought it was really just an interesting look because she is not looking at how to study and pick apart Shakespeare necessarily, but instead in how to portray it honestly. And I thought that it was a really interesting perspective and really adds a lot to anyone's understanding of the source material. Just, it was absolutely a delightful production. I highly recommend anyone who likes Shakespeare listen to this. It was a beautiful audiobook. It was just a delight. I was having such a fun time running around my house, doing chores, listening to Judi Dench talk about Shakespeare. It made those couple days just an absolute delight. This book is a gem. Highly recommend it. 5 stars. I am so glad that I listened to it. And that is what I read in the past little while. Hopefully I will be back soon with another video talking about what I have read. And if you have thoughts on these books, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you all on the next one.